Hey guys, just real quick, I just want to let you guys know you can find me at patreon.com/Jonathan Rector. All your financial support there goes directly back into making more content for you guys and you ladies out there. And remember, you can always cancel your subscription at any time. And if you are one of my Patreons, thank you so much. Your help gets me closer to making my personal comics and my dreams come to life. Seriously though, head on over there if you guys are interested, and anybody that gives any money at all, if it is something that you're interested in, you do get access to my pencil brushes that I use in Manga Studio 5e for free, and there's 5 of those guys. So subscribe today if you're interested in it, share if you're not, maybe one of your friends might be interested in it. I appreciate all of it. Thank you again, and enjoy the video. Bye. Hello everybody, welcome to Live Scribbles with Jonathan. You can check out my website and my work at jonathanrector.com. And like usual, if you guys wanted to find me anywhere on the internet, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff, head again over to my website and you can find all the links to those places there. And if you guys would like to be a Patreon subscriber, head on over to patreon.com/JonathanRector. I always forget which slash it is. But there's some free goodies on there too if you guys wanted to throw a dollar at me or anything like that, and some other services on there you guys can check. I'm not going to bore you to death. So today what I'm going to do here is during the pre-show we were working on this here, which is just a sketch of Pierre from Castle Dracula. This isn't what we're going to be working on today. I will be just doing some like a contour line on the character here, and then I'll be moving over to some comic book work. That's what we'll be working on today in Manga Studio 4. However, this show is for you guys and girls, so if you guys had any questions, comments, anything that you needed possible help with that I might be able to do so, by all means, please just leave it in all capitals in the chat. That way I can see it and I can go through it and cherry pick the ones that are there. I have an apology to make right off the crack. Somebody had sent me something to critique, and I have misplaced it. I don't know whether you had sent it through DeviantArt, Facebook. I've double-checked. I can't seem to find it. I'm pretty sure I even printed it out so that I wouldn't forget, but I have misplaced it. So my sincerest apologies for botching that. But if anybody else had anything else in the chat, I know some people were talking in the beginning, they wanted some stuff critiqued. By all means, if you want, you can go ahead and shoot that in now, and we can get there. So whoever that was, hopefully you don't take too much offense to it. Honest mistake. So please just resend it, and I'll have some due diligence to make sure that it gets answered next show. Alright, so all I'm doing here is just putting some line weights on this guy. I have 2 versions of this I'm going to do, not with you guys. I did want to talk about a personal project really quickly before we get back into what we're doing here. But I'd seen a method from Marko Durjevic. I always say his last name wrong. And he did a very similar style like this. I just shared it on Facebook earlier today, where it's almost like a ink pen or a really dark pencil brush, and you take it from here, and then we do the same thing that we've been doing for a little while. I like to call it the Dave Raposa method, but it's very similar to what we were doing before. And what you do is from that you go ahead and you actually start digitally painting over top of it, and I want to do something like that for this, just to try it, but also I think it'd be pretty cool just have a real nice, if I can do it anyway, really cool painted version of Pierre here. And on the topic of personal projects, so one of my favorite artists that's around today, really making really kick-ass content, is Dave Raposa. I've talked about him quite a bit. I love all of his work. He was just on the Level Up, I guess you call it a podcast show on YouTube, and you know, it was just kind of, everybody was just interviewing him, talking about his process, all the artsy fartsy stuff. And somebody in the chat at that, during that show, had asked Dave what is the best advice that he's ever been given. And he had a pretty funny reply. It was basically like, your advice that you get your best advice that you'd consider your best advice always changes, right? The best advice I ever heard when I was growing up is not the same advice that I would remember necessarily or be practicing necessarily today. But I guess Marco, I guess they talk, they're buddies. The best advice Marco had given him, and it's actually sinking in quite a bit for me as well, the same advice. And what it was basically don't show anybody any of your work until it's finished. And that sounds a little like, well, what are you going to show people, you know? I post stuff all the time online, and a lot of the time it bites me in the ass, especially when it comes to personal projects, right? So the whole idea behind that is you guys all know how many personal projects I've always got going on, and they drop, and then there's another one coming on, and all that stuff. It's just best if I just don't talk about any of them or show any artwork really at all until it's done, or to like close friends and personal friends that we talk online and stuff like that. Like I can bounce ideas off those people, right? But for like you guys, not that you guys aren't my friends, but you know what I'm talking about. There's no reason to me showing you stuff like this, even this, for example. Showing you this because what it does is there are those that are interested in projects that you make, right? So there's people that are interested in the projects I'm making and other people are making. And when I jump ship off of this and go on to something else, it's kind of like it just instills bad feelings, I think, for those people that are actually interested in your work, right? And this isn't anything new, but so I'm going to be making an active what's the word I'm looking for here? An active, I should just rephrase it. I'm going to be active in not showing you guys anything until it's ready to be shown. It'll just be better for everybody that way, as well as it takes some pressure off me, even though I know it's like I don't really see personal projects to completion. There's still that pressure that if a new idea does come along and I do move on, it's like I'm not only letting myself down, but I'm letting other people down as well. And it's just not a good feeling, and I don't want people to keep hearing about stuff that doesn't get done and always asking about like, oh, when's this gonna happen, when's that gonna happen, you know? So that's what's going on with that. So the only stuff I guess I'll be sharing will be stuff that's client work, and you know, like pinups and sketches and stuff like that, and process, like if I'm finding like a new tutorial or something, like, oh, I gotta try this kind of thing out, lunch sketches and stuff like that. So I don't know how you guys feel about that. I think the advice is actually pretty good. I know there's some people that would argue it's bad advice, that there's the other side of it where it's no, share everything you do, even your failures, because there's merit in that, and people enjoy the, you know, the realism and stuff, you know, like the person's real that's screwing up. And I was of that mindset too, of you know, it doesn't really matter if I jump around on projects and stuff, because you know, I just want people to see what it's like, at least for me, because I know other people struggle with making projects, that it's not necessarily something that everybody can do. And I think everybody should be able to finish a project, but not everybody can finish one. And I don't really know where I'm going with that, so I'm just going to go up and start answering some questions. But I just wanted to show you guys, let you guys know what's going on with that. And so when you do start seeing personal projects from me and stuff, it will be stuff that you guys can actually look forward to actually reading, and stuff that you can see like it's real. It's actually a comic book, you know. It's not just concept art, it's not just pinups, it's not just exercises and things like that. So alright, so our good friend Will Robson wants to critique his work. Let me just check these out. You got 2 links here. Okay, copy. That was loud. Alright, copy image. Alright, so this here is actually a page that Will's working on for a comic called Time of Death. So let me just move over here, paste it. I don't know how big this image is. Okay. And let me just open up the chat here so I can see what everybody's saying here. Okay, so get here. Then I guess Manny, he's got some too. Okay, so Will had sent me this before, and I talked to him about what I thought. What he was sending me was kind of like, do you see all this gray line work in here, all this rendering? It was basically toning, you know, to help the rest of the creative team along to know where the light and shadow is kind of hitting. It gives Will a little bit more control, you know, in where and how the image is going. The immediate downside usually is this sort of thing adds lots of time to your work, right? Like it increases the amount. Each line takes time to do. It looks like amazing, but it does take longer. So it's more of like a style choice. Like if somebody likes what they see or if they don't. If you know, everybody jumps around on what they like. But okay, so I'm not going to critique. Well, okay, we'll just go all the way here. We'll go through storytelling and pacing and stuff. Let me just zoom out so you guys can kind of see what's going on here. So we got two people in a room, and then somebody we don't know. I'm assuming this is all part of a page. I don't know who this old guy is. And the old guy shows back up. Okay, so I think that's him there, and then he sees them out, and then death shows up. Okay, so let's get into the critique mode, guys, for everybody. Alright, so let's get make a new layer, grab our pen, whatever the hell that is, and we'll grab a nice red. Cool. Alright, so first things first, the only thing I don't like about the storytelling going on here, and I know we jump back and forth on this sort of thing, is so we have two characters looking this way, which is great, gets us to the next panel. And we get to this panel, and his eyes are still going here, so we're still looking up here. You got the cool framing, so it's all great. Then here you've got an eye going this way, eye going here. And then here you got them leaving the panel, which is fine. And here you got the really cool flow of the blade thing going this way to point over there, and obviously everything's coming in back in to trap everybody in there. That's fine. What I have a problem with is this right here. I think this panel should be flipped. Here, let me just show you why. I'm all over the place with you guys here. Okay, so since we have these two characters right here, they're looking this way. This character, I'm assuming, is in the same room, but all of a sudden he's looking this way, and again, I don't know who these other people are, so I'm kind of confused. The placement of the characters in this room, I don't understand. I don't like this, and I know a lot of artists do this, and it's a personal taste, and I know why, because you have the eyes leading into the next panel. The reason why I don't like it is because when I looked at this page anyway, it looks like these two people are having a conversation with this guy, and these guys are kind of talking back and forth, and I'm probably assuming wrong because then there's this older lady. I don't know who she is. Even actually, it looks like there might actually be how many? 5 people in this room. You got these two people, the old man, then these two people. I don't think they're all the same people, and I could be wrong. And the only reason I say that is because the hairstyles are changing, and I don't really know who's. This lady doesn't look like this lady. But anyway, going back to what I was saying about this middle panel, if these two people were talking here, I always find it best to edit, transform, flip horizontal. Do something like this, okay? Where this way it looks like they're talking to each other, so it's that plane I've told you guys about, and I think most of you know about it. And if you don't know, just do a real quick crash course. So let's just say we drew a layout of this hospital room. It looks like, how does Will have it? So we have a door here, a bed here, and a window. Okay, so I'm assuming since this guy is over by his bed, maybe there's some chairs or something here. He's here. These two people, I have no clue where they are in this spot. And then there's 2 other people here apparently. So just this leads me to believe that the 2 people in the first panel are here. Anyway, so let's just assume that's what it was. So we'll have a line. This would be where your camera line is, okay? So if you imagine you and your whole creative team were sitting over here with your cameras, you can put your camera anywhere you want here. And usually it follows a curve like this. Whoops, I got it the wrong way. Camera's going this way. So you can shoot any shot inside like that, okay? Now, when you have characters flip-flopping back and forth, it kind of breaks that up. And I'm jumping all over the place. And then the only other thing I don't quite understand, because there's all these two people are leaving, is, and this could be part of the story. Again, I'm not sure, because I'm not sure what's going on, but these two people are still in the room, I guess, when Death shows up. Or maybe they're not in the room. I don't know. But anyway, other than that, looks good, man. The rendering's clean, looks real slick. All that gray work does look very cool. The only thing I would consider is this last panel. All of a sudden, all the gray goes away. It goes black, and then we get into some weird rendering here and here. And like even here, like all this stuff probably could have been like how you were doing your gray stuff. But no, that's nitpicking. Looks good. So let me turn this off here. Okay. Let's grab the next one here. I think it's going to be a critique night. Okay, so this one's from Manny's World. And he's saying, critique, please, critique fairly that he's new to digital. Okay. So I'm going to take a look what you got here. And we're going to destroy it. Oh, yeah. That's good stuff. Copy image. So we got some good old Super Mario. Alright, I'll make a new layer. Alright, let's just zoom in here. Okay, so I'm just going to go at it from a digital painting sort of thing, and then I'll just briefly talk about your anatomy. Okay, so overall, it's a pretty boring piece. And I'm just going to be blunt with you, because, you know, you guys know the way I'm talking with you guys. I want you guys to get better and stuff. And even when I show people my stuff, I want people to rip it up and give reasons why, because that's the only way to learn, okay? But never forget, take all the stuff that anybody tells you with a grain of salt. But never stop practicing. Never stop asking people to look at your stuff and critique it. Don't just send people artwork because you want them to tell you it looks good. It's an empty way to grow as an artist, okay? So when I say this is pretty boring, there's no real composition. We have Mario here. He's throwing something over at the Koopa. But there's nothing tying all of this together. It's just stuff, right? So you got Mario and he's jumping on a Goomba. You got World 1 kind of set up here. And you got some dude poking out of a pipe, but there's no story here, right? It's honestly, if the whole story to this picture was just Mario stepping on a Goomba and throwing a shell at this dude, it's not that you don't need any of this stuff, but that would be your story, is these three guys, right? So if you even went as far as doing something, just a different kind of composition. So let's say the whole point of it was Mario jumping off a Goomba and throwing something. So there's like there's a hit or something, and he's up here and he's throwing something down here. I'm thinking of like a triangle composition, so you could have Mario, you know, doing a little leap thing, hitting a Goomba here, and then he's up in the air, and you get like a real sweet, you know, like his hands kind of coming up that way. His big old head. Foot down there. Just clean this up a bit so you can see what's going on. And the reason I'm doing this is that's just a story I'm trying to tell, is he's hitting something, jumping up, and you know, and we got like this swooshing motion down, and he's throwing a shell. And I understand this is a little bit different style than what you have here, into another guy, and he's probably looking back like that. But the story I'm telling is a little bit more action. I'm bringing you into the action, okay? So even though I have this, you know, we could bring our perspective up like that. You can still put your pipe, just put it in the background. It doesn't matter what it is. It's background information, right? The anatomy on Mario here is pretty rough. It needs some work. I'm just trying to look at your lighting. Your lighting's looking good. Your lighting's hitting everywhere it should be. The only thing you did forget, just to nitpick, is you gave everything a shadow except these blocks up here. You know, probably should be a shadow over here maybe from that. And don't forget, if you're going to have clouds just in one spot, you got a lot of sky here, so fill that up. So honestly, a lot of the good things going on here. So I just want to show you one thing here. To make this image better, you could probably even just go ahead and like crop it just into here like this. You know what I mean? Like this image here is still telling the same image that you had. It's still telling the same story, but it doesn't have all that emptiness to it. Okay, so just be aware of, think of a story you're trying to tell. What's most important in it? Figure out what it is, and then find the best way to tell that story, and stick to it. Stick to it, and that's going to give you a composition. It's going to make the eye pleasing. Try not to get the eye moving around too much, and yeah, and you're going to get better as you go, so not everything's always sideways and flat. You will start playing with perspective and stuff. But yeah, keep going. I mean, your color's looking really good. So make sure we get all that there. Okay, so let's close this up here. Steve Lichtman is an amazing comic. The last one they just had with the werewolf in the ring, I felt so sad about that. It was, oh man, it was so good. Have I read the Marvel art of Djurjevic? No, I'm actually thinking of picking that up. I'll actually show you guys in a little bit once they come in. I've been ordering a lot of art books from Japan, from like especially role-playing video games. I love the concept art and that stuff. God, it's good. But I got there's a recommendation from Dave and other people as well for the Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together. It's a really weird name, but the art book apparently is really good. I love that artist's stuff, so I'm really looking forward to that. And then the other one I picked up, I'm still waiting to get in, was Bravely Default. I haven't beaten it. I've played a little bit of it, or not a little bit, probably 20 hours of it. Really great game. Art design is really awesome in that too. So, like I say, I'm getting into art books again. And the more I find that I'm working on personal projects and just like experimenting with new techniques and stuff, guys, it's always like, I don't know, I start to gravitate towards the concept art side of books, the art of books. So much really cool stuff in there. And the less I want to read comics, which, you know, you got to balance, I find anyway. Because I love comics. I love being able to tell stories in comic form and all that good stuff, but sometimes you just want, or mostly what I get comics for is just some really cool artwork. But I get surprised every now and then by some really sweet stories and stories that stick with me and that I remember them. And those start to sit around as some of my favorite comic books. But, you know, I'm an artist, just like all of you guys and girls, and you guys all love art. So I highly recommend getting art of books. You might not have to get art of books for like video games. You can get movies like Star Wars ones. A lot of people talk about those. Those are really good. But yeah, definitely check that stuff out. And you can always bring all that stuff back into your work, right? Like a different way of drawing. Oh, good stuff. I don't know if I want to have them like those perky lips. It kind of looks stupid. Okay, I think we're pretty much done this here. What I will be doing, just so you guys know from here, I'll be going into Photoshop and just coloring it like we normally do, and then I'm going to digitally paint a second time just to see if I can get that going on. There's some weird area going on here. It's gonna be blacked out because of the cape behind him, but we can worry about that later. There's a tangent here. Let's fix that. We'll fix it later. Okay, so I'm gonna close this up here. I'll save again. And we're going to open up Manga Studio 4, do some inking for Worlds in Peril. But let me just quickly go through. And again, anybody that's new in the room, if you guys had a question or a comment or anything you might need help with, by all means, ask it in the chat here. And just put it in all capitals so that when I scroll through, I can see it there. Jose D'Art is asking, how do you come up with stories? Or what's your creative process as far as that? I come up with a lot of stories. I don't write very many scripts. I come up with a lot of concepts and ideas, and that's, you know, there are projects. As much as I like to poo-poo all over myself of not completing projects, there's projects that I have finished that I just don't want to show anybody. Maybe one day I will. I have shown a couple to some personal friends and stuff, but you know, it's all fun stuff. Usually with me, when it comes to coming up with a new story, it's all character driven. It's all character based. So I'll have an idea while I'm in the shower, or while I'm biking to work, or just sporadically looking at other people's artwork, or hearing something, and how can I turn that into a story, right? And usually, I don't necessarily say you start with a hero, but I find most people start that way. They start with a hero. It's usually like a hero's journey, sort of questing style of comic. But like I say, I usually start with just a design, some sort of character, and then from there I'll just start to think about what's the comic, what's the story I want to do, and then start building up on that, and then eventually I'll get note cards out. And by note cards, I mean like index cards, something that you might write a recipe on or something like that. And I have a video on my YouTube channel, so you can check out exactly what I'm talking about. And I got this method from Doug Tenaple. Really big fan of his stuff too. And I don't know if he still uses this or not, but it does help me get started anyway. And what you do is you grab 3 note cards, and they represent a beginning, a middle, and an end. I like to start with the ending of my books. I like to know where I am going with everything. How I get there is the fun, but I need to have a good ending. So to keep it simple, let's just say we had stealing is wrong. That's always a fun one. So it ends with the book being the moral of the story. Like, what is it that I want to tell? And this doesn't have to be great things, right? Like, anybody that's watched He-Man or Power Rangers, they can be about bullying, or, you know, just like a moral. There's something to tell. This is a little bit different than people that just want to draw a comic where it's like a bunch of people just beating the shit out of each other, right? As much as I like to do that, I'd like to have some character in there at least. So that's where I'm coming from with that. But we'll say stealing is wrong. And then the next thing you would do is you'd grab another note card and you'd write the opposite of that. Stealing is good, or stealing is right. And then the middle is the discussion. Like, what happens to change your mind from stealing is a good thing? Something goes along and happens, and then at the end of you're like, oh no, stealing is really bad. And you can kind of work it up from there. Once you figure out what that middle part is, maybe it could be, in this case, because the character stole something, an entire race of people is eradicated. They're gone. Okay, so because of that, now that character thinks stealing is wrong, right? So you grab 3 more note cards for each of those 3 that you started with. So your beginning has 3 underneath it, another beginning, middle, and end. Your middle has a beginning, middle, and end, and your end has a beginning, middle, and end. And you do all of that again. So how do you get the beginning and the middle to get to an argument, and then the discussion in the middle? And then you do all of that one more time. You end up with something crazy like 27 note cards. And your story's basically done at that point. You still have to write it and stuff, but that's usually my workflow. And it's the writing part that gets me caught up. There's only one project that I've really had since I was younger. And even today, even though we don't talk about it, or not necessarily talk about it, but I haven't really drawn much for it because the style is always changing. But that's Guildborn. The name is a recent change, but I've always had these ideas for like Dungeons and Dragons, role-playing, fantasy stuff, and the world just keeps building and building and building. Maybe one day we'll be able to get to her. I've been hearing a lot of these really cool artists. What they've been doing is they just do art books, and within those art books they also have like short stories and stuff like that of the races. And a lot of people will tell you that, you know, doing the Tolkien method, a lot of people talk, or a lot of people say, where it's don't ever do a book or a story that's like how Tolkien did his, where it's just massive, because you don't really need all that stuff. I agree, but at the same time, it's really fun to do that stuff. And if most of you, I'm assuming all of you anyway in here, you're all artists, so being able to create a world that you get to draw, that's power, man. That's good stuff. And what's really cool too is like it lets me, you know, if I ever need to, I can just kind of zone out and go into the world of Guildborn. You know, it's my own little place. It's my own little world. And that's honestly where all of this comes from. It's I forget the name of it. It has something to do with like a god complex or something, I think it is, where no matter what you do, it's just like you like creating all these worlds and stories and adventure, you know? I don't play very many video games anymore these days. I knew this would eventually happen, but the idea of sitting down and turning a system on takes so much work. I don't even like the idea of it. And it's a good thing on the other side of the hand, where now it's like I kind of can go, all right, well, I just want to, you know, I really want to play a role-playing game like Guild Wars 2 or something, or World of Warcraft, where I can just play a character and level grind and do some quests and get bored of it within like an hour a night. But I don't want to pay those fees. I don't want to buy all these new games. So I'll just, you know, open it in the sketchbook and just start doing all those adventures and stories that I want for Guildborn. Or if I have something else like Castle Dracula, I actually purchased the original one again on the Nintendo Wii. I'm just playing through that every now and then, and it's like, oh, cool. Okay, so I got the taste in my mouth of that game, and then I can just let my own ideas come through, and I can just draw. Like, now I can make my own version of it. So I think that's a really long-winded way of just saying what I was trying to say there. Let me just go down there. Okay, so Will's getting back to us saying, this is how long I've been rambling for. He was saying, yeah, those two people that were in that first panel, the boy and the girl, they aren't in the same room, they're in an elevator. And then the scene changes in the second panel. So somebody had another comment. I agree. I doubt Will's going to go back and redraw any of this stuff. I don't blame him. But for everybody else, whenever you have a scene change, as much as, you know, your writer might tell you one thing, you got to make it clear to people. And to be fair, all of us that saw that page, we don't know what comes before it, right? We don't know if he already, I'm assuming he had an establishing shot of an elevator, right? But the shot that was chosen there, now that I know it in hindsight, it's probably bad because I don't know that it's, you have two close-ups, right? And they're in different locations. It makes it difficult. But in the pacing of the whole comic book, it might work, so. Okay, Lars is saying, we were talking about blocky, squishy shapes and keeping it organic in the pre-show. Do you mind taking a look at Hulk? Okay, yeah. So during the pre-show, we were actually drawing that the Pierre picture there. Pierre, I don't even know if I'm really liking that name. Fuck, I think I'm gonna get rid of that name. Pierre doesn't, and this is any apologies to anybody with the name Pierre. It just doesn't sound like a strong vampire slang name, you know? So we're going to have to work on that. Okay, edit. Alright, we're in Manga Studio 4 now, so this might, I don't know how well this is going to work. Let me just scroll down here. Okay, so we got a... Okay, so what he was asking about with this was making square shapes organic. How can we do that? How can we make them organic? Because a square, by definition, is very rigid, straight, and simple in a way. The very easy way of doing it, in my opinion, is, okay, so like, let's just say we stacked one square on another square on another square. Okay, so this could be a shoulder, bicep, tricep, wrist, right? Now, if you just build it because you want it to be square like this, there's not much energy in it, but just you can still curve things, right? And it can still be a box. So the bicep, you can still get some sharp shapes, and a tricep, like, it's just being very cautious of where you're putting your lines and knowing that they're just straight shapes. That's all it is. That's to keep it boxy, as opposed to sharp shapes where, you know, every line you put in there is sharp. And the square kind of stuff, it can lead to looking a little bit evil, if you wanted to call it that, or aggressive. I'm a big fan of the Hulk. The Hulk's my favorite superhero, and I really dig this. I really dig this. The only thing I critique is you messed the arm up. What you did is you dislocated the shoulder here, okay? So just to show you guys, let's lower the opacity. We're just going to draw over top of it. And the reason why this happened is it's a fundamentals issue. That's all it is. This sort of thing will get better with practice. I'm assuming anyway, what had happened is either you didn't start with any kind of structure work, or the structure work you did, you lost along the way. And I remember when I started drawing too, when I was younger, is no matter how many stickmen I drew, once I started putting anatomy on it, I kind of just started going like, all right, forget it. So let's say we did an arm again like this, and this was my structure I had. Not really structure, but then I would go, okay, I'm gonna put like a shoulder here, you know, and oh man, I'm running out of room over there, but I know I need all this stuff in here. I need all this. I gotta make space, you know. And all of a sudden, now your proportions are getting way out of whack. And the problem with that, anyway, is because you didn't build any structure. This is like what some might call wireframes or a lot of different things. I don't like doing this, maybe in a gesture, but I need structure before we start putting anatomy on there, right? So all structure would be is like, again, those blocks, or if you want to get into the 3D stuff, you know, like cylinders. So you know, okay, so there's a cylinder, bang. So now you know all of your muscles, they all need to roughly fit in here, right? And with a character like the Hulk, it can get wild because his stuff's all blown out of proportion. So all you gotta do is just make the structure bigger. But those wireframes, those all that stuff is kind of you don't need to worry about it. So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna draw over top of it here. So we're just gonna kind of redraw it here. So all right, so we got the Hulk screaming here. So one thing I like to remember is like the spine. So we know his neck is going this way, and his spine, this line that I'm drawing is behind his body here, okay? Like, that's the way it's supposed to be going. But we've kind of got it doing this sort of thing. So we're going to do the chest cavity here. Now notice at the top, you even did it as well. The top, this is the perspective. We're looking from the top looking down. So all the shapes have to keep doing this, right? So we've got that. I'm just going to put a little center line. So the pelvis has got to tilt like that. Now this is where I don't want to say you screwed up, because you didn't, but this is just being proper with anatomy. You see how you've got this happening here, which is right. You've got your rib cage lining up to your pelvis, which is right. What I always found though is when I would tend to do this, my characters they could never have that explosive anatomy. I can't just go like, yeah, giant lats, and you know, you could, but everything's still too perfect with this. I'm going to show you what I do after I tackle yours here first, just so I can get like Hulk-like anatomy, which some of you guys might get an interest in. So we have it here. Now you've already got right here, you put like the little, I'm just going to put a circle, that's for his collar. Right, and then he's got his bones that are going this way, I guess. Now you can see right away, you got your shoulder way down here. And if that's not the shoulder, I mean, you put a bicep here and a shoulder here, right? The problem with this is that shoulder is supposed to connect right here. If you have it down, then it's supposed to go like this. And then you can still bulge your bicep out like that, and then get your forearm this way. But the way you have it, we'll just do a ball because most people like to think of it this way. And then we've got a cylinder shape coming down here, hand, and then you got this massive forearm. So what's fun to do with this method is you can literally just redraw over somebody's drawing, and it shows like errors like instantly. Okay, so there's a lot of like this kind of action happening where he's just big to be big. Okay, so what I'm going to show you guys, man, it's been a little while since I've been in Manga Studio 4 to do this stuff. Okay, clear. I'm going to do the same sort of pose, but how I kind of started. So we'll do the same thing. We'll start with the head, right? Still put a gesture in there. And what I do from this stage is sometimes there's two things. One, like feel like what I want to do, or I just start building the character. Usually when you feel the character out like this, like, yeah, I want, you know, like you get that gesture in, that helps a lot to get an energy down. The Hulk has a lot of energy, but I think in this drawing we're just trying to show how cool he is. When you're doing like a pinup shot of a character, you don't always, and this is a personal opinion, you don't always need to have this gesture down. Just the idea of what you kind of want to do with it. So the Hulk, so we'll still do that like same shape. Okay, that cylinder shape. But this is where I kind of go to make the Hulk big and all the big characters. Instead of going, okay, well, I know that the pelvis is supposed to be here, that small, I'll go ahead and I'll just make it like tiny. I want his upper body to be massive. I like to think, again, in a personal opinion, as the Hulk is like a gorilla. I like that idea. So even though his shoulder to be proportioned would be like this, and you got your pecs right there, that's fine. But I like, you know, boom, let's get some massive anatomy going on here. You got another one here. So as you can see, I'm actually jumping around when I start planting shapes down. You saw me here. I'll do it one more time. So I didn't finish this full circle. I just kind of gestured it in, and I know I need like the bicep or tricep. Something's going here into a circle, which is going to be roughly the forearm. And then okay, so now we can put the hand in here, and I can kind of build all that stuff up, right? And I can still know where my landmarks are for the chest, because it's still gonna fit. And we're going to do the leg, so one cylinder kind of coming up at us. The Hulk, it's got like massive legs too. And then even though I have all this back here, I'll even throw muscle on top of the structure just to give it like that extra pop, you know? And it's just something like that that helps bring it out, that's all. Okay, so there's little things you can remember too, like even if you shrunk his head, he might look more hulky. But again, that's the style. Everybody's drawn in a bunch of different ways. So, so yeah, let me just jump around back here. Van's asking, hey John, I realize you have a lot of work to do, but wondered if you'd be open to critique a few pages I've done. Go ahead and post one page. I don't want to take any time from everybody else, just to be fair. And Jose Diard is asking, could you please critique this? That was my first actual finished drawing done digitally. Okay. So it's the critique show today, guys. Good stuff. Okay, paste and go. Copy image. Okay. And we'll close that down there. Okay. So this was Jose Diart's first, in air quotes here, finished drawing that he ever did digitally. Okay, so right off the crack, your shadow work is wrong. Okay, and I'm just going to show you why. So if you look at her hand, let's see if I can. Okay, so you've got the shadows coming in like this, which look real cool. I love this look right here. This is nice, right? Which means her hands are very close to the ground, very close. Tail did it too, right? But then all of a sudden, all this is flat. Okay, and the reason why this is wrong is because your perspective is off, and you can see it in the figure too. Your perspective work is off. What you've done with this hand is you've presented to us that it's on a plane that looks like that. Okay, so if we go ahead and we just add that perspective in, because the digits on the hand are actually adding quite a bit of information for us. Okay, now that we have all that, now you already know where your shadows are supposed to be placed. Okay, so all of this, just erase it, is wrong, and you can see that her the way her body is, it doesn't follow that perspective either. So there's a lot wrong with it in that respect. So let's get the body here. Right, it would be following something a little bit along like these sorts of lines. Okay. But yeah, just to go back here, just so you can kind of see the anatomy you've got going here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw literally right on top of it, and then move it over so you can see. And guys, what this is, and what I'm seeing a lot of tonight, not that there's anything wrong with it, just so you guys are aware of it so you guys can fix it, is that you guys aren't taking the time to study gesture and structure. I'm talking about spending an entire year, let alone the rest of your life, filling up sketchbooks upon sketchbooks upon sketchbooks of cylinder people, skeletons. You don't necessarily need to do skeletons, but like even those wireframes. Fill books with monotonous shapes. Learn how to break down an arm to look like, again, real simple shape here. Okay, so we've got an arm to the side. We can do one where it's kind of coming at us. You can do one where it's coming right at you. You know, this sort of stuff, it's boring as hell, and I can't show it to people. I can't get people to go, oh, that's cool. I can't get any real feedback from it. It is so important for you guys to do it, and I'm not saying you're not doing it. I don't want to bash anybody. I'm just trying to be very aggressive in letting you know how fundamentally important it is. It doesn't matter how well you render, how awesome your shading is, how awesome your style is. If you can't get down certain fundamental basics, they stick out. So you might be able to render or have shading. Well, the shading actually wouldn't work unless you kind of understood form. But let's just say you had a really cool, you could draw faces like, oh my god, this person is amazing. But everything else, like you couldn't understand structure, like how a body is in perspective. The first thing, no matter how cool and how awesome that face is, people are going to go, it feels off. And the fact that the perspective starts to feel weird, people aren't going to give it the respect or the attention that it needs, because something about it feels wrong. Okay, so just know that when you're working here, that the more you do that kind of work, the better you're going to get in the long run. Drawing, I'm still learning, guys. I still can't draw certain poses. I still don't understand certain lighting, all kinds of stuff. But that's the point. Just keep pushing through, okay, guys? So I'm just going to show you. I don't know how you started this. I don't know if you just started drawing. I'm not quite sure. But I'm just going to draw the skeleton over top. Just lower the opacity a little bit more, just so you can see the errors in it, okay? All right, so get the face. Very small collarbone that goes here, here. I'm not going to draw the breast because you don't really need them. I'm just trying to show where the rib cage is. I don't know where the pelvis is. It's somewhere in there. Okay. And I recommend you guys do this too, because it is still considered study. Is take the photo you drew, especially all you digital guys and girls. This look how long this is taking me, right? It's not taking me long. Make a new layer and just turn everything you drew into cylinder shapes. Try to find where they connect, okay? And what that's going to do is it's going to let you see things differently as opposed to running drawing. So we're going to turn it off. That's what you have here, okay? Now it doesn't look too bad here. It's just a lot of the things are kind of off, right? So what you need to do is, like, this collarbone is way too small. So let's just say we're going to use the head as a reference. Copy paste. Oops. Transform. Okay, we'll go here. Now merge down. Okay, so we're going to use the same head. And we're just going to draw. I see where you're going here. You're trying to get this torso to go back, right? You've got a collarbone, you got one arm up, and the other arm's down. So you got a neck. Right? We got to make sure we still have a pelvis somewhere in there. Now, where's the weight going? Okay, the weight, it looks like it's on the hand coming up. Let me just turn all this off. So it looks like the hand in the front here in our foreground is where all the weight is. So we're going to start there. All these shapes, they all gotta go like that. It's just to help sell this perspective here. And you can see right away when you bring an arm up like that, this leg, it's not that it can't, but it looks weird back like that, because then you'd have everything back like this. So I would actually switch the pelvis here. I would go the other way with it. And a quick way you can always remember this is, usually anyway, do the opposite of your collarbone. So you can see from one point to another, we're going this way. So that means with our pelvis, we're going to go that way, okay? Just like when you walk. So it's going to be bigger up here, smaller back here. So now we can go ahead and I can bring this knee way up here. She really needs another leg back there. Then we can bring our thigh back that way, and then she's kind of doing this sexy growl thing here. And this hand cannot be the same size as this. It not in this perspective, it can't. Okay. So all I did here, you guys notice I didn't put in any. You could put in a perspective if you wanted to. You know, if that makes it easier for you to understand where these shapes and everything are going. But please, guys. Oh, that's one other thing I wanted to say too. If you notice, let me just draw or move the hands over so you can see. Whoops. I just want to move inside. Let me move it. So I'm going to put these arms next to each other so you guys can see the difference here with the perspective. Okay. With the one that I did, everything is coming at us like this. Okay. With the one you had, your arm went away from us, and then it went back in front of us. So I know if I stood on the ground, you guys could too. You could kneel on the ground right now and do this pose, and it feels natural. But if you wanted to get a little more dynamic in there, you got to go this route. You got to have it kind of coming at us, especially if you got the rest of the pose here. And if you would use reference, I'm not sure. I'd probably have to see that reference just to make sure. But okay, it looks like we've got about 7 minutes left here, so I'm going to try to jam through. If you guys have any questions or anything, please just punch them in. Hopefully we can get to them here. But anyway, yeah, just ended up, keep going, keep doing what you're doing. It's good to see that you're actually sticking with the digital stuff, so that's good stuff. You have a folder. Could you please, Van, just pick one and then just post it? Okay, thanks, Van. Let me grab that. Okay. Alright, paste and go. Paste and go, paste and go. Hey, Zelda. Meow meow. Okay. Oh, cool. I like this kind of style right here. Okay, so edit. Paste. Close. Okay, so oops, let's get a new layer here and critique, critique, critique. Okay, I'll say right off the crack, it's got talking animals in it, so that's cool. I do like that. It's got a very European style to it. Fish. I'm not gonna read it. I'm just gonna go with the pacing here. So we got a guy looking down. He's looking, sees the fish. Okay, to be honest, I think the page is excellent. There's nothing really wrong. I can give you the generic stuff that most artists will probably tell you, and this is just stuff to keep thinking about, is change your camera angles up. Like in this panel here, you got an up shot or a down shot, sorry, which is great. Another down shot, it's great. But you do have a lot of flat shots in here for this monotony. However, to me it feels like a European style book where this is like I really don't have a problem with this, to be honest with you. And there's some anatomy problems with the face, but I mean it looks like you've got a lot of other things going pretty good for yourself. So just keep it up. But in saying that, I just want to go over really quickly the face because it is important. Because I did just say that no matter how pretty your art is, you can't get away with bad fundamentals in there, okay? So the problem here, this looks like it was done traditionally. If it was done digitally, or maybe it was done digital, not quite sure. Yeah, it was. I can I don't know about you guys, but you can usually tell Manga Studio corners. I'm going to assume this was Manga Studio because you can tell the corners there. Okay, so when you're doing pages, when you get shots like this guy here, don't just draw in that panel, especially when it's a face like that. What ends up happening is it gets squished, or your image just gets really messed up here. So since you're working digital, just make a new layer or whatever and turn the other ones off and just draw a head and then put it in. It'll save you so much time and it'll look so much better. So basically it looks like, you know, his head would be something like that, which is fine. But this is all pretty flat. You know, you got to get a second angle in there. So if we just draw over top, oops, got our center line. Let's move it over. Right? Like the structure is there. It's just some of the things start getting lost, like the mouth goes off on a different angle. The nose keeps falling in, but those could be style choices. Like people are allowed to have non-superhero standard noses, right? Like the nose I'm drawing right here. That doesn't have to be the nose that everybody's got. So again, it's mostly just nitpicking stuff. The eye, maybe bring it down this way because you have it pretty flat on. And this eye, don't bring it right to the edge there. Just bring it in a bit like that. Maybe something like that. But yeah, it's just, again, that eye, you know, like this is the line you have for the plane. So make sure everything's kind of fitting that there. But anyway, great page. Oh, it was? Okay. Okay, so it looks like somebody's having a writing question about coming up with a plot. If you guys can remember, by all means, just make a little note and ask these during next week's show. And maybe next week we can go over a little bit of story if you guys want. That might help. Okay, this will be the very last picture we will look at tonight. Thank you guys again, too, for having the balls to just post art. You know, like a lot of people don't like doing it because it's personal, and you know, I'm not trying to come at you guys with like soft blows. I'm trying to give you some encouragement, but you guys are doing some really awesome stuff. And again, it does take balls to share your stuff, right? So good job on that. Okay, so for this right away, what I like is we're starting to show some perspective. So I can just, you guys will get the hang of this stuff as the more you draw too, but you can start to see where things are lining up, like a perspective, right? So her legs are following a certain perspective here, right? So we can kind of follow those lines. We can find the middle line here. Oops, that's her center of gravity. Maybe make the shadow in here a little bit more, just to make it look like it's grounded. This arm, actually, you could make it a little bit bigger. I don't think it wouldn't. The reason I say, okay, so let me just go into a reason why I'm saying that. All right. You look at the size of this forearm compared to this one, it's smaller, which is fine because it's more foreshortened, but it's smaller, it's not bigger. Even her hand here is smaller than this one, so anything that's closer to us needs to be bigger. So let's just go ahead and we're just gonna make it like maybe a slight adjustment. You don't gotta go crazy with it. What the hell is this? Oh, you transformed the wrong thing. I'm just gonna thin out some of those muscles. It doesn't need to be that big. What else we got here? No, honestly, it looks good. I can't really complain. It looks like you got some sound foundation going on. So just keep it up. That's looking good. Let's go back the way it was. Yep. Or we can do the flip test to see if anything pops out. Okay, so one thing did pop out here. Her head's too big. So I like all that hair though. That hair, I always like lots of hair on my ladies. So I'm gonna just get the neck in there too. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna shrink it. Obviously, this is gonna get a whole world of problems with the hands being the right sizes. But if you just shrink the head a little bit, I think it looks a little better there for you. So I would just shrink the head a bit. You can see how much I shrunk it. It's really not that much. But comparing it to her chest and her hands, her head was a little bit too big. So if you guys look at it that way, I'm just going to undo it now so you can see the other way. See? So, anyway. Okay, so again, thank you everybody. Like you guys are too good. You guys are too good. I appreciate all the support, all the help. You guys even asking me to help you guys out, which is it's humbling. So thank you so much, and I hope nobody took too much offense. I don't want to sugarcoat the critiques too much. They're very important. I will just wrap up for you guys too. Like I say, even if you don't want to do a full sketchbook, commit to doing something like 10 pages a week of anatomy that are cylinders and squares. Okay, and just so you can understand structure a bit better and form. You know, you don't need to go in there and figure out how many heads are on the shoulder. It can be a ball for now. It'll just get better over time. That's just the way it goes. So I wish you guys all the best. Please keep sharing it. I'd love to see your guys' progress. It's awesome to see you guys growing. So again, thank you everybody that stopped by. If you guys wanted to check me out online, you can go to my website, jonathanrector.com. You can find me all over the place on the internet, and we're gonna have some new stuff coming up soon. The YouTube stuff's been a little slow, but just had a lot of client work we've had to do. And if you guys felt like subscribing over on Patreon, all of your support there is great. 100% of the funding goes right back into me taking less client work so I can start doing my own personal work, which is awesome that anybody even wants to help me out with that. So thank you guys for those of you that are Patreons right now. Really appreciate that. And you can always cancel your subscription at any time. You can change the amount. Anybody that is a subscriber, if you guys are into penciling in Manga Studio 5, if you happen to like my pencils or you find them somewhat interesting, any donation at all gets you access to the free brushes as well. And if you kind of like the critiquing that we're doing here, if you guys just wanted to roll over with like a personal project and you wanted some opinion on plot, on character design, or anything like that, if you guys find my opinion on that interesting, I believe it's a $30 donation, and then we can figure out a time during the month that works best for you, and we can head on over to Google Talk, and it'll just be you and I, and we'll do a screen sharing session. You don't have to show me your screen, but I'll definitely have mine up to help you guys out. And there's some other goodies on there as well. But thank you guys once again. I appreciate it so much. I'll see you guys next Wednesday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And like usual, we do the pre-show a little bit before, just you know, some music and some sketching. But until next Wednesday, you guys, keep reading comics, keep making comics, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.